They had a lot of information available to them, but maybe the best way to answer this question of how much they really knew is to look at Christopher Columbus. When Christopher Columbus set sail to discover a new route, as he thought, to India, he had with him on board two books. He had with him Marco Polo's account of his travels to China when it was governed by the Mongols in the 14th century. And he also had with him a book called The Book of Marvels by a guy called Jean de Mandeville, who may have been, which may have been a pseudonym for somebody. And the Book of Marvels is a notoriously unreliable book. And yet we have Columbus's own copy of Marco Polo's accounts of his real travels, and then we also have this account of these fake travels. And they seem to have carried equal weight with Columbus. So that even though Europeans are starting to have access to real information that comes from travelers' direct experiences with the peoples of exotic lands, they're still drawn to these fantastical constructs, fictional constructs of what other peoples are like. So even as we start getting maps, for example, that are more and more accurate navigational tools for not only navigating the Eastern Atlantic and the Mediterranean, but reaching out into the newly discovered worlds, we have more and more accurate maps being made. We at the same time still have medieval maps of the world, the Mappa Mundi, this kind of map is called, which imagines the world as being ringed about with monstrous races. So that even in the 17th century, when you have explorers venturing into the Amazon and discovering new territories in the North Atlantic, for example, they're always writing home to their patrons saying, you know, someday soon I will find these two-headed men. Someday soon I will find the cannibals. And this inevitably colors, of course, the way that Europeans experience and perceive the peoples that they do encounter. That rather than looking at these people for who they are and observing their customs, they're pretty convinced that these people are someday going to start to exhibit these kinds of monstrous behaviors that they've been taught to believe. So I guess this is an object lesson about the power of fiction, about the power of these powerful ideas, which in many ways we can still see in our own culture and our attachment to Star Trek and Star Wars, space epics. We have displaced our enthusiasm for monstrous races, but we no longer tend to see them on Earth, but we imagine them as still existing somewhere up there in the sky.